Okay, chapter 15, section 3. Fascism rises in Europe. In response to political turmoil and economic crises, Italy and Germany turn to totalitarian dictators. This is sort of the heart of the project that you should be working on. What situations are these countries experiencing? They're going to enable the people to believe, the things that these dictators are spouting and to follow them blindly in most cases. So let's look at Italy. I know we all watched the Mussolini documentary, so a lot of this is a little bit redundant, so I'm going to move a little quick. So the new political movement of Mussolini's was called fascism, or if you remember from the video, fasciste, which emphasizes nationalism and loyalty to a single authoritarian leader. This is exactly the same sort of thing, Mussolini or Hitler. In Italy, of course, it is Mussolini. The Italians want a leader who will take action after World War I. After World War I, they came out of the war and somehow didn't seem to feel that they had received all that they were due and wanted somebody to restore them to their former glory. Not just that, but to sort of restore life. There were strikes. The economy was falling apart. And to the middle class, it became very troubling that it looked like communism was going to be leaking over from the Soviet Union into Italy. And if communists were coming, then that meant that if you were a small business owner, things were bad for you. So Mussolini first gets to power by promising to protect the middle class against the communists, which, if you remember from the video, is ironic because he was raised as a socialist and his dad was a socialist, and he was named after Benito Juarez, the Mexican revolutionary, trying to rail against the rich people. So Mussolini comes to power. He's promising to rescue Italy, make it great again, etc. He uses his black shirts. They torture and force people to vote fascist, whether they want to or not. He becomes so popular that using his own newspaper as his own propaganda, that the king appoints him prime minister of Italy. But of course, that's not good enough for Mussolini. He still stages a big old march on Rome to sort of make it appear that he took power, at the barrel of a gun, which of course he did not. Once he's in control of the government, he has the fascist government, his fascist party members vote him all sorts of power, and then they basically vote themselves out of a job, or they disband. He calls himself Il Duce, meaning the leader, and he controls everything. He is in control of everything. They even send him copies of the newspaper ahead of time, and he proofreads them and sends them back to them and says, essentially, take this out. I don't like it. It doesn't make me look good, or whatever. Although, the original duck face. See, look, it even says ducks down underneath his name. Get it? Duck face. Just make it his duck face, and then whatever, you get it. You remember. Let's talk about Germany. In Germany, Hitler rises to power. Ironically, he had to go through a citizenship ceremony and become a full German citizen because he was actually Austrian. So he serves in the German army in World War I, and there he is. As you could see, he's the one with the arrow pointing to his head. He had an old sort of Kaiser-style mustache. Actually, the dude sort of up and to the right from him has the Hitler mustache that Hitler would, make famous. He's an obscure political figure. Again, like I said, he fights for the German army in World War I. When the Versailles Treaty is signed, he blames the Weimar Republic and says that they stabbed Germany in the back by signing it. Nazism is the German brand of fascism. They have the same ideas. One person in control, a dictator. Nazism is the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And Hitler becomes the Nazi leader. And he has, if Mussolini's got his black shirts, then Hitler's got his brown shirts, and they, uses them in the same sort of way. He's constantly making trouble for the Weimar Republic, agitating for revolution. At one point he gets up, it's called the Beer Hall Putsch. Like he jumps up on a table in the middle of an Oktoberfest in a beer hall and starts screaming about how the government is corrupt and the government is evil and it's time for the revolution and the revolution begins now. And then he, gets arrested and taken off to jail, and basically his revolution is over for that point. While he's in jail, he writes the book Mein Kampf, my struggle against I don't know what. But he believes that Germany is a highly superior country to everyone else, and that Germany needs more living space. And folded into that is he believes that Germany needs the return of the German people. If you remember, after World War I, you've got Czechoslovakia that was created. Well, before Czechoslovakia was created, all those people, or, the people in the northwestern half, were all German. So suddenly you tell them, no, you're Czech now. Okay, so, okay. So previous to that, they were German. And then you've got Poland, and some of those people were German. And then you've got a piece of Poland. Look it up in your map. Okay, look up the Polish corridor in your chapter, from chapter 13 if you've forgotten, where it actually separates a piece of Germany from a piece called East Prussia. So all of those people speak German, are German, consider themselves German, and are told by European leaders that since they lost the war, no, now you're Polish, now you're Prussian, now you're Czechoslovakian. And he is originally, one of the points of his book is, those groups need to come back to Germany. And, he doesn't have a lot of supporters. He's got, some support and people who are highly anti-Semitic, because that is another portion of his program, which he details in his book. There is no surprises. If you read the book, you knew what was coming. And so, he's got some people who are with him, but it isn't until the economy really, really just falls to bits that people start looking around for anybody who's got some answers. And here is this guy who is speaking all the time, and he's very, very charismatic up on stage, and, just whips the crowd up into a frenzy, and they buy it. They buy into it, and they listen to him. So somebody asked me previously where the Nazi swastika came from, and that's a whole long story. But essentially, it's a Hindu symbol, okay? So from India, and it means it's a good luck symbol. So you go to a Hindu temple, or you go certain places if they have any artifacts from Alexander the Great's conquests when he came to northern India, and you'll see the swastika. And it is like it says down there, to be good, or to be with your higher self. And it is sort of the lines, the arms go around almost in a circle, symbolizing rebirth or reincarnation in the reincarnation system of Hinduism. In 1920, okay, the Nazi Party redesigned it to represent what they called the Aryan race, which is, again, ironic because the Aryans that were in, northern India. So, yeah. So they tilted it 45 degrees and, everybody just bought into it. So if you see a swastika that looks like the one on the left, okay, then, you're probably talking to somebody who practices Hinduism or even, some forms of Buddhism and believes in reincarnation and rebirth. If you see the one on the right, you should run for the hills, child. All right, so just like in Italy, where Mussolini gains popularity and the king is forced to appoint him as prime minister, the same thing sort of happens in Germany. Hitler takes power totally legally. He actually runs for president against a World War I war hero, Paul Hindenburg. Hindenburg is old, and he wasn't going to run for president at all. This would have been his second term, I believe second or third. But he didn't want Hitler to win. He was very concerned that Hitler was going, to win, and he recognized that this guy was a crazy man. So Hindenburg runs again, and basically there's three guys running for president of Germany, and it's Hindenburg, Hitler, and a guy representing the Communist Party. And so Hitler loses and the Communist guy loses, and, you know, the war hero Hindenburg wins. But he's in office for about 2 years, and Hitler is still continuing to use his brown shirts to torture people and force them to join the Nazi Party and force them to vote for the Nazi Party. And Hindenburg sees the popularity, and perhaps he decides, you know, keep your enemies, you know, your friends closer, your enemies closer, who knows. But he is pushed into appointing Hitler as Chancellor of Germany, which is a position that is way below president. So maybe he was just trying to keep an eye on this person that he thinks is going to be so deadly for Germany. And he's right. But the problem is he dies. And when he dies, Hitler ascends to the presidency, and essentially then he's got his Nazis in charge of the Reichstag, and that's it. They vote him absolute power, and it's almost exactly the same way that Mussolini comes into power. Once he's got the power, he begins to embark on his, you know, his program for creating what he believes is a perfect state. And in his perfect state, that means there are no, quote, undesirables. He goes after communists, and communists are gone, and unionists are gone. And then he goes after, you know, all sorts of minority groups or those he considers undesirable. The gypsies are rounded up. Homosexuals are rounded up. People with physical disabilities. If it is a genetic physical disability, or a mental disability, you can, you know, suddenly you might be rounded up. Or, I mean, no less evil, but kind of even more sort of scary is if you had a mental disability, and, you know, you might find yourself jumped one day on the street, and you wake up 3 days later in a hospital, and they tell you that you've been, you know, by government order, you've been sterilized, so that you cannot have children, so that you will not make any more undesirable people. Again, you know, his whack ideas of racial purity. The next group he goes after are the Jews. And he, you know, sort of lets the people of Germany sort of off the leash and lets them do whatever they want to... okay, someone's drilling at my door. That's strange. You know, to ransack the stores or whatever. You've got no protection under the law anymore if you're Jewish. Other countries begin to fall to dictators. The world is divided, just like we were before World War I. Most of the Eastern European states fall to dictators. Only Czechoslovakia retains its democratic government, but that's okay. We're going to stab it in the back in the next chapter. And you really see people starting to take sides. You're either democratic and believe in democracy, or you're falling prey to a dictator after World War I. Some things that you need to think about is, why do these countries fall prey to dictators? If you can answer that, then that's good for the test. What methods do they use to gain control? Why don't these people protest? I mean, these are not, you know, crazy, stupid people. They are normal, everyday doctors, lawyers, teachers, garbage collectors, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. They're everyday normal people. What makes them follow somebody who's got an evil plan and not throw up their hands and say, wait a minute, this is wrong? And then once this dictator has control, how do they maintain it? What are the characteristics that Hitler and Mussolini have in common? And you should know what a scapegoat is, and how both or all the dictators we study, including yours, use a scapegoat to control their people. And I think, people, that's it. This is a really good political cartoon. As you remember from the video, Hitler and Stalin signed a pact, even though Hitler got into power by getting rid of the communists, and so did Mussolini. But then they turn around and they sign a pact. The pact is really interesting. They're never really it never really says anything like, hey, we're friends, but it's the I won't attack you if you won't attack me. So here they are over the dead body that is Poland, which will become clear in a little bit. And, Hitler's introducing himself to Stalin. And I'm sure you can figure that out for yourself. But trust me when I say you will see this political cartoon again. That's foreshadowing. See you tomorrow.